Good evening. I don't want it to be disconcerting if I just glance up here every now and then. I don't usually do that. I'll usually just talk. But I'd actually just noted a couple of things down so I wouldn't forget them, I think. But I'm not going to go into depth. But I did just want to mention a few things about psychic mediumship. And I'm not talking about phenomenon, about the mystery of the world, about the wonder of the human brain, what is the universe, individual experiences, and things like that. So in my dark, grumpy moments, I might say, well, stop bringing your own vibe down. Stop giving your power away to people. When you have faith and belief in these things, don't lower the value of your own mind. I don't really believe that, and it's not true that IQ has anything to do with belief in psychic mediumship. It's not true that education level has anything to do with psychic mediumship. It's nothing to do with how you process memory. It's all to do with analytical thinking. Do you feel like utilizing analytical thinking in your life? I mean, maybe you don't have a need for cognition. Maybe you can't be bothered evaluating arguments. I don't know what it is, but skeptics score higher all the time in logical tests, and this is not to do with IQ. I'm not saying it's to do with intelligence, and what is intelligence quotient anyway? There are plenty of geniuses that aren't too smart, and there's plenty of idiot savants, and there's everyone in between. So what is interesting is the distaste for analytical thinking causative, or what comes first? Or do you just push analytical thinking aside when it comes to what role psychic mediumship plays in your life? What you believe, who you believe. So you've got critical thinking, you've got analytical thinking, you've got, it could be, say, mentalism and theory of mind on one side, and those things are really interesting because who's using them for what? Many mentalists work as psychics. And then you've got, on the other hand, you've got personal, sort of subjective, less analytical people. And let me just, I just wanted to bring something up here. Confirmation bias, the tendency to believe things that marry the closest with maybe our own hopes or our own beliefs, Confirmation bias plays a big role. So does retrofitting, and that's after the fact. Anything, sort of vague and nebulous can be married up to fact later, can't it? And there's a thing called I'll think of it later, something out. Multiple out, okay? Multiple out. what often happens? Well, wild goose chases, vague and incoherent talk. Are people self-deluded? I don't know. Not everyone is a fraud. Some people have faith in their abilities, and I want to talk about the relationship between psychics and psychosis. Maybe that's for another video though. But you know, wishful thinking and the act of making a decision to believe the most appealing thing and not the most reasoned thing. People will cling to frantic. They'll cling to wispy, false evidence. Yeah. There's the Barnum effect, and the Barnum effect is that phenomenon when vague and generalized terms and things, you match them up to your life. People view claims as evidence. There's plenty of people that hear a claim by a psychic and they view it as evidence regardless of the evidential basis. You know, there's the common sense things. There's things that people say like near water, near a tree, up a hill. You know, and don't forget that false news spreads fast, and before you know it, 10,000, 70,000 websites are going to have information on them that is complete bollocks. That might be something like, oh, the psychic works with police. Well, was it just really the case of a cop, an ex-cop, posing questions to a psychic as a sort of team up? You know, as just an exercise? Yeah, whenever there's studies, I mean, there's major methodological flaws in the studies. That's proven time and time again. And the funny one for me is always Uri Geller, who was letting people know what he saw in images behind a wall, and there were holes in the wall. So interestingly, in the US, 1 in 3 people say that they have had psychic moments. They believe that. And half of the women say that they have experienced a spirit. Does this make life interesting, or is just this a lack of analytical skills? Does it reduce anxiety? Does it fulfill an emotional need? Are you experiencing great stress? And, you know, do you see that advert or that person saying, are you worried, confused? Are you praying for answers? Maybe I've got them. Interestingly, the right hemisphere of the brain does light up in MRIs when people are using their psychic abilities. And what would be interesting to study is the correlation between psychic mediumships and people with psychosis, because let's just take part of psychosis, auditory hallucinations. You know, they appear to happen in both if psychic mediums are indeed hearing these messages. Is it the same threat management at work in both of these types of people? Because with psychosis, this is someone who is suffering a great power imbalance in their life. They are responding to threat, and sometimes you just can't be in the real world. And psychosis is often medicalized, and it shouldn't be to the degree that it is. And people with psychosis have, from every angle in their lives, people and things taking away every skerrick of power that they might have in their life. And how does this relate to psychic mediumships? Well, are they trying to gain some sort of control and power in their life? What are they trying to not face? You know, in psychosis, you're living in this alternate reality because actually sometimes the truth of life is worse, and you want to be somewhere else, and even being scared. I mean, the threat and how you survive, what you do to survive, it's fascinating, and is some of the similar things at play with psychic mediums. You know, there's a lot of people that have suffered grief, and that's how they get into it. Are they escaping the grief? Are they surviving the grief this way? Now, I don't have a problem with things like this. I mean, I have had some very interesting experiences. But let's not forget that people can harm others, and they can harm vulnerable people, okay? Because, okay, what was the name of I want to say Brown. I want to say Sylvia Brown. Amanda Berry was one of the 3 young women who escaped from Ariel Castro. So she was held captive for many, many years, and eventually these women were freed. The tragedy, apart from the tragedy that these women are living with in their life, I mean, these women are some of the most strong, powerful, incredible women that walk this earth, for one thing. But one of the tragedies is that Amanda Berry's mother was told by Sylvia Brown that her daughter was dead, and she died not knowing that Amanda was alive, and that is disgusting. And actually, you know, someone else that we all know in the true crime community, because she is a true crime reporter, and she is a beautiful, intelligent, just fascinating reporter to watch, and that is Elizabeth Smart. And Elizabeth, her case brought the attention of many psychics, and 9 or 10,000 tips from psychics, pieces of information were sent in to law enforcement, and all had to be followed up, and not one of these tips gave a skerrick of useful information. Information put out by law enforcement being, I think, images, photos, or you know, sketches of what Elizabeth Smart's abductor would look like. It was members of the public. It was astute, switched on members of the public paying attention and taking action that saved Elizabeth Smart from her abductors. And, you know, analytical skills. There's several psychics that will, they want, oh gosh, I hope they're watching this video. I hope they see it. So you don't have the power of your conviction, you can't ring, you can't ring law enforcement yourself and let them know of your beliefs, of your truths, of these facts as you see them. No, you just hope that they have to do the work. Law enforcement or someone else should just be watching your videos and wade through half an hour of delirium and verbal diarrhea just to get all these messages and to get these clues. Yeah? Do you think that is courtesy? Do you think that sounds like common sense? Do you think that sounds like a, you know, an efficient use of law enforcement time and energy? you know, I mean, we all want magical things in life. We want mystery in life. We want to know that things might be there to protect us. We want to know that our loved ones live on in spirit after death. When you love people, when they die, you don't want them going into this black nothing. I am terrified of death. I think about death every day. It is something that cripples me nearly sometimes. And, you know, I don't comfort myself with thoughts of the afterlife. And having said that, though, it's not like I haven't had some very interesting experiences. But I don't want to exercise this Barnum effect, whereby this one event or maybe a dream is taken as sign or a vision or a message, and the tens of thousands of other dreams I'm just discounting. Does that make sense? It's just what people do. We take vague things and we relate them uniquely to us. Or we sometimes, we're just not exercising analytical skills. The brain is amazing, and the universe is amazing. The fact that we even are able to experience this external world, we don't even know what it is, and how we experience this implicate-explicate order. It's, the most wonderful, brilliant physicists generally are also philosophers, and these things do go hand in hand. People, it's not that they're not with good hearts, but I think they can get away with themselves. I think they are fulfilling needs of their own. Okay, think about that. Is this person fulfilling a need of their own? They may feel like they are doing work that they need to do, but I feel that it is nearly related to some types of things that happen with psychosis, and that is to do with power and threat. And maybe I'll do a talk about that. So I know that I can come across as quite blunt and rude and abrasive and say, look, if you're believing in psychic mediumship, then you are lowering your own tone of your mind. You're not doing your mind, you're not honouring your human brain. But having said that, it's absolutely not true that people with high IQ, low IQ, people with high education, no education, everybody from any walk of life, can have this belief. The 100% difference is in the desire to utilize analytical, critical thinking. And I find it fascinating why people avoid it. Do they do it purposefully? I would love to know what drives that within each person, because that is what's missing. And it doesn't mean that at the end of the day, once you've analysed things, that you're not left with something fascinating, because as you know, I love to speculate, but I'm trying to draw from what might be possible and have reason for it. And most things you can explain easily, and then there's smaller amount of things that take a little bit more, but you'd probably get there. But yeah, I want there to be joy and mystery and hope in the world. But I think false hope is disgusting. I think false hope is cruel, and it has done a lot of damage. and try to think about what the person saying things is getting out of it, okay? And that doesn't mean that it's still not that they are doing something from what they say is the goodness of their heart or wholly might feel it, but you need to look at their psychology as well as just looking at your own thought processes. All right, well, this has gone on long enough. I'm sure it's going to piss plenty of people off. Also, I hope you're listening at 2.0 because yet again, I am talking quite slowly. I don't really mean to. It's a sensitive subject, and I often wish it was easier just to talk about various experiences so you could see where I'm coming from. I find it hard to be a bit succinct, like most people might, because when you've got 50 years of life, you've had plenty of experiences, and I've had a lot of swings and roundabouts, let's say. So thanks for listening. What do you think? Are you someone that would like to have psychic mediums involved in more true crime cases? Do you think that they should not be given any airtime? What do you think about them personally? Have you used a psychic before? How do you feel about people using tools such as cards or talismans, pendulums? Do you see correlations between people who use those things on sort of both sides of the proverbial fence? These are things that Chad Daybell used. And we all know that he's practically an antichrist. So, I wish you well. Take care. I'd love to know what you think. I know you can make all sorts of assumptions about what you think I think from this. Might be a bit more complicated than you assume, but I just want to say analytical thinking. It is so important. Let's try to engage it. Let's try to bring it to what we're doing. Even when I'm doing entertainment videos, when I'm comparing Chad Daybell to Manson, when I'm doing, that is an exercise. That is an exercise for conversation or just thinking about things a certain way. When I'm doing exercises such as saying, does Laurie possess dark triad traits? When I'm doing exercises such as, let's look at the 7 deadly sins in correlation to Chad and Laurie, which I actually, I loved doing that video. These are exercises. These are just supposed to be thoughtful things for conversation. And it's a little bit more complex than me just doing a basic video, isn't it? Because I actually think that medicalizing psychological conditions is dangerous in a lot of ways. And, why do you think the DSM gets thicker and thicker and thicker? It's supposed to be a tool. It shouldn't really hold up in legal, in court in some ways. What have we got? How big is this DSM going to get? Because you're going to have to try and describe every single person on earth, aren't you? And also when you medicalize people that have psychosis, for example, what you are doing is you are removing true understanding sometimes, because once you can medicalize them, then people have power over them to treat them, to tell them how they're going to be treated, to tell them what choices they can make in life. You are stigmatizing them, you are removing any status, and what they're trying to do in the first instance when they experience psychosis is protect themselves. It's doing things to survive, isn't it? And what you desperately need is human connection, and you don't need to be someone who is controlled and over whom power is wielded, and you're already trying to protect yourself from life in some way by living an alternate life. And in some ways that is similar to the psychic mediumship. I would like to know, sometimes they're protecting themselves from life and their experiences by this. Are they experiencing auditory hallucinations? Is it the same part of the brain, the limbic system, that is firing? If they truly are having auditory hallucinations, similar to in psychosis, we don't know, but that would be something interesting to pursue. What are they protecting themselves from? Why are they creating this alternate reality, this alternate universe? Where is that need coming from? Sometimes it's the loss of a child, but let's not forget that we've got confirmation bias, retrofitting, multiple out, subjectiveness, personal need versus critical thinking, analytical thought processes. We've got mentalism, we've got theory of mind. Sorry, this is just going on and on and on and on and on. I'll speak to you later. Thanks for tuning in again. And hey, here's to us for surviving the 22nd of July. I'm glad you've gotten through it. I'm glad I've gotten through it for various reasons. It wouldn't have surprised many of us if, bad things did happen, because it's been a fucker of a year. But hopefully we can continue to move forward. Hopefully we're going to start seeing some closure in some cases that we're all following. And I'll speak to you soon.